It's time to finish the job.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most consequential and/or significant failures of judgment between 2015 and now.
I'm really worried.
Titan Submersible Expedition. In June 2023, the submersible Titan imploded in the North Atlantic Ocean during an undersea expedition to view the wreckage of the Titanic, killing all 5 on board.
Somewhere along the journey, 3.8 kilometres down into the hostile depths of the North Atlantic Ocean, catastrophe struck.
Among the casualties was Stockton Rush, CEO of OceanGate. Concerns had been expressed about Titan and its fitness for deep-sea expeditions as far back as 2018, but ultimately ignored.
That same year, the company's chief pilot, David Lockridge, was fired and sued for raising a long list of safety concerns.
If someone raised a safety concern, as the chief pilot did, they were not only not listened to, they were silenced.
Communication with its mothership was lost after 93 minutes and debris was discovered days later. What exactly occurred to cause the implosion is unclear, but what is clear is that 5 lives could have been saved if proper safety precautions had been taken.
Well, there must have been something wrong with it, because 5 people are dead.
Well, we don't know exactly what happened. It could have been a number of different things that caused the implosion.
Fire Festival. In 2017, the most talked about music festival wasn't Coachella, Lollapalooza, or Bonnaroo. Instead, it was the Fire Festival. And the discussion was not positive, to say the least.
The Fire Festival was billed as a luxury destination music experience with beachside parties, fancy bungalows, and food from celebrity chefs. But instead, this is what they saw.
Organized by businessmen Billy McFarland and rapper Ja Rule to promote the Fire booking app, it was set to take place in the Bahamas on 2 separate weekends in April and May.
You see the supermodels on jet skis and you're thinking like, wow, I really want to be there.
Influencers like Kendall Jenner promoted the festival on social media. However, poor organization and budget issues led to numerous acts withdrawing. When attendees arrived on the festival grounds, they were greeted by disaster relief tents and cheese sandwiches.
So I tweet out, look at this. Do you see these lockers? Do you see the luxury food court? And do you see this luxury cheese sandwich?
McFarland pleaded guilty to wire fraud and received a 6-year prison sentence, being released in 2022. He and Ja Rule were also hit with a $100 million class action lawsuit.
We didn't break the law in the execution of the festival.
What were you indicted for?
I'm not going to comment on any ongoing criminal proceedings.
Hillary Clinton not campaigning in Wisconsin. Throughout the 2016 U.S. presidential election, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was the odds-on favorite against her opponent, former host of The Apprentice, Donald Trump.
When I was in the Senate, I had a number of trade deals that came before me, and I held them all to the same test. Will they create jobs in America? Will they raise incomes in America? And are they good for our national security?
After her loss, there was much speculation as to why. While there are numerous potential factors to consider, one clear blunder was Clinton's failure to campaign in Wisconsin, part of the blue wall of Midwestern states key to electoral victory.
Hillary Clinton hasn't been in the Badger State since March, and if she doesn't come back, it will be historic.
That apparently is the first time this has happened since 1972, when Richard Nixon decided not to visit the state during his re-election campaign.
This wasn't the only previously blue state that Trump had flipped, but it did speak to an overconfidence among Clinton and the Democratic establishment that turned a seemingly surefire victory into a shocking defeat.
There were all kinds of factors.
Running George Santos. People running for public office not being completely truthful is nothing new, but dishonesty to the extent of George Santos is truly mind-boggling.
I hope I can earn your vote on November 8th.
Weeks after his victory to New York's 3rd congressional district in the 2022 midterm elections, it was revealed that numerous aspects of Santos's backstory had been completely fabricated. Among these falsehoods were his having worked for Goldman Sachs, producing Broadway musicals Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, and his mother working in the World Trade Center and surviving the September 11th attacks.
She was in the South Tower, and she made it out. She got caught up in the ash cloud. My mom fought cancer till her death.
But we now know that his mother was not in New York and was not even in this country during 9/11.
These revelations immediately made him a pariah in Congress, and he became the 6th representative and first Republican in U.S. history to be expelled. Had a more thorough vetting process been done, it's likely Santos would have never gotten as far as he did.
I'm George Santos, and I approve this message.
FTX. Cryptocurrency has been a massive source of discussion over the last decade. Advocates arguing it as a source of great financial opportunities for investors, while skeptics warning of instability and lack of regulations.
One columnist who's covered this intensively sums it up like this. If you are running a scam, you will be drawn to crypto. You are running a confidence game, and crypto offers the most efficient market for turning confidence into money.
One of the most cautionary tales came from the short-lived story of FTX, a crypto exchange co-founded by Sam Bankman-Fried in 2019.
You know, honestly, from our perspective, it sometimes feels like the world is just going sort of in slow motion around us, and that we're going at, you know, about an average speed.
The company seemed poised to revolutionize the crypto industry, with numerous celebrity endorsements. However, this all came undone in 2022 when the company collapsed and Bankman-Fried was charged with multiple counts of fraud.
In 2019, until earlier this year, Bankman-Fried and his co-conspirators stole billions of dollars from FTX customers.
Investors ended up losing an estimated $8 billion collectively, and Bankman-Fried was convicted and sentenced to 25 years in prison.
You know, honestly, if I look back on myself, I think I got a little cocky.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg not stepping down. As an Associate Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was widely regarded as an inspiring figure.
I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
However, her legacy would be in a much better place if she had stepped down during Barack Obama's second term as president, allowing him to choose her successor on the bench.
If the Republicans take the Senate in November, President Obama's ability to pick her successor will be greatly constrained. If a Republican wins the presidency in 2016, a conservative would then be taking her place.
The court's oldest judge, Ginsburg had faced a wide array of health issues, including multiple cancer diagnoses. It became especially concerning during Donald Trump's presidency due to his ability to choose her successor. Ginsburg passed away in September 2020, and Trump nominee Amy Coney Barrett assumed office the following month, further strengthening the conservative majority in the court.
So help me God.
Elon Musk Twitter purchase. In October 2022, billionaire Elon Musk finalized his purchase of social networking platform Twitter for a $44 billion all-cash deal.
According to some technology analysts, it simply came down to cash and a lack of other suitors to potentially take the company private or buy a majority share.
Changes soon were underway, including rebranding of the platform as X and making blue verified checkmarks available for purchase, making it easy for public figures to be impersonated.
Some users began to abuse the service and impersonate athletes, brands, celebrities, even Musk himself.
Content moderation was greatly scaled back, allowing hate speech and disinformation to run rampant. Advertisers and users both left in droves, and mass layoffs and resignations had a drastic effect on internal morale.
Just over time, these things build up, and the site will become more abusive, more extreme, and less reliable over time.
2 years after Musk's purchase, investment company Fidelity estimated that under Musk, the company's value had plunged nearly 80%.
Is that clear? I hope it is.
Brexit. In June 2016, a referendum was held in the UK to determine whether or not the country would stay in the European Union. Supporters of the measure cited economic and immigration concerns.
Britain wants its government to have greater power and be able to block EU legislation, especially when it comes to its financial sector. But it also wants to cut benefits to EU migrants, find ways to reduce internal EU migration, negotiate trade deals faster.
Ultimately, the measure, put forward by then Prime Minister David Cameron, who anticipated its failure, passed with nearly 52% of the vote.
The total number of votes cast in favour of leave was 17,410,742.
Though the negative effects of leaving the EU weren't immediately clear, they soon were made apparent. Trade, employment, and overall per capita income took a hit, with one expert calling it a historic debacle.
This is just so much more difficult to do business with the EU. There are customs checks, there are inspections, delays, problems with paying taxes. It has really led to a drastic drop in business between the two blocs.
Though there's been speculation about the possibility of the UK eventually rejoining the EU, there's been no significant moves towards reunification.
I don't think the present government of Starmer is going to go anywhere near this, because it would open up a can of worms for him.
So there, cheers to that, I think.
Donald Trump's COVID-19 response. There are numerous reasons to point to as to why Donald Trump lost his bid for re-election in 2020, including his discouraging of mail-in voting by his supporters. But the biggest is arguably his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic.
It started in 2018 when he dismantled the pandemic response team created for such an emergency. Then, once the virus ravaged the US and the rest of the world, he downplayed its severity and ignored the advice of experts, instead promoting fringe theories involving injecting bleach.
Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute.
A report published in The Lancet in 2021 found that roughly 40% of COVID-related deaths in the US could have been averted had Trump treated the pandemic far more seriously than he did.
1,000 Americans are dying a day.
They are dying. That's true. And it is what it is. But that doesn't mean we aren't doing everything we can. It's under control as much as you can control it.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Joe Biden's re-election bid. Even before he announced his bid for re-election, there were calls for him to not seek a second term.
The latest NBC News poll shows 70% of Americans believe the president should not run for a second term, including 51% of Democrats.
Between his advanced age and low poll numbers, a likely rematch with former President Donald Trump seemed poised to result in a humiliating defeat. These concerns only became more apparent after a debate between Biden and Trump in June 2024 that was widely regarded as disastrous.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
With the election just months away, calls for Biden to step aside grew by the day.
There are new developments in the Democratic Party's concerns over President Biden's capability to win the election. And now former Speaker Nancy Pelosi has confronted Biden.
He ultimately did withdraw from the race in July, supporting his VP Kamala Harris as the party's nominee.
Selecting Kamala was the very first decision I made when I became our nominee. And it was the best decision I made my whole career.
Though Harris was able to pull together a campaign in a limited time, it wasn't enough to keep Trump from returning to the White House. Which of these decisions do you think had the worst impact? Let us know in the comments.
Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience.